Have you ever wondered why some women seem to light up when they see certain men, while others get the standard polite hello? What if I told you that the way a woman greets you reveals everything about how she truly feels, even when she's trying to keep those feelings hidden? Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating aspects of female psychology that most people completely overlook. We're talking about the secret language of greetings when a woman is harboring genuine romantic feelings. This isn't your typical dating advice about hair touching or nervous laughter. This is about understanding the unconscious psychological patterns that women display when they're secretly in love, patterns so subtle that even they don't realize they're doing it. By the end of this exploration, you'll never look at a simple hello the same way again. You'll understand the hidden psychology behind every greeting, every glance, and every gesture that reveals when a woman's heart is truly invested. And if you find this breakdown as revealing as I think you will, make sure to engage with this content because understanding female psychology at this level can transform how you navigate relationships entirely. Before we dive into the specific greeting behaviors, we need to understand what happens in a woman's mind when she's secretly in love. This isn't just attraction or casual interest we're talking about. Secret love is deeper, more complex, and psychologically fascinating because it involves a constant internal battle between wanting to reveal feelings and fear of vulnerability. When a woman secretly loves someone, her brain is essentially operating on two levels simultaneously. The conscious mind is trying to maintain composure, act natural, and protect her emotional safety. But the unconscious mind is flooded with oxytocin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, creating an internal storm of emotion that has to find an outlet somewhere. Neuroscientists have discovered that when we're in love, our brains show increased activity in the ventral tegmental area, which is responsible for reward and motivation. For women especially, this neurochemical cocktail creates micro-expressions and behavioral patterns that leak out despite their best efforts to remain composed. The greeting moment becomes particularly significant because it's often the first socially acceptable way for her to express any physical or emotional closeness. Those first few seconds of interaction become charged with all the emotion she's been holding back. Her body language, voice tone, and energy levels shift in ways that reveal far more than she intends. Research in behavioral psychology shows that women are generally more emotionally expressive than men, but when they're trying to hide romantic feelings, they often overcompensate by being either too controlled or too animated. Both extremes are telling, and they show up most clearly in how she approaches that initial greeting. Sign 1. The anticipatory positioning. When a woman secretly loves you, she doesn't just wait for you to appear and then react. Her body actually begins preparing for your presence before you're even in sight. If you pay close attention, you might notice she positions herself strategically in spaces where she knows you'll arrive. This isn't stalking or obvious behavior. It's much more subtle. She might linger near the entrance of a room, position herself at the coffee station when she knows you take your break, or find reasons to be in common areas during times when you typically pass through. Her subconscious is creating opportunities for natural encounters. The psychological drive behind this is fascinating. When we're in love, our brains become hypervigilant to opportunities for connection. Women who secretly love someone often develop an almost radar-like awareness of that person's patterns and movements. They're not consciously planning these encounters, but their emotions are guiding them toward increased proximity. Watch for the woman who seems to frequently end up in your path, not through coincidence, but through unconscious emotional positioning. She's creating chances for those greeting moments because, psychologically, each interaction feeds the emotional connection she's craving while still maintaining plausible deniability about her feelings. Sign 2. The extended eye contact before speaking. Most casual greetings involve brief eye contact, maybe a second or two, before words are exchanged. But when a woman secretly loves you, something different happens. She holds your gaze for an extended moment before speaking, almost as if she's drinking in the sight of you. This extended eye contact serves multiple psychological purposes. First, it's feeding her emotional need for connection. Eye contact releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, and women in love crave this neurochemical rush. Second, she's unconsciously trying to read your emotions and gauge your reaction to seeing her. The fascinating part is what happens during this extended gaze. You might notice her pupils dilate slightly, a physiological response to emotional arousal that she can't control. Her breathing might change, becoming either deeper or more shallow. These are involuntary responses to the intense emotions she's experiencing. Sometimes, this extended eye contact is followed by a slight delay in verbal greeting, as if she's momentarily lost in the moment. She might blink more slowly than normal or seem to be processing something internally before finding her words. This isn't awkwardness in the traditional sense, it's her emotional system being overwhelmed by the intensity of seeing someone she secretly loves. Sign 3, the voice transformation. Perhaps one of the most revealing signs is how her voice changes when she greets you compared to how she greets others. Women who secretly love someone often experience unconscious vocal modifications that are driven by both attraction and nervous energy. You might notice her voice becomes softer, more melodic, almost musical in quality. This is partly due to increased estrogen and oxytocin affecting her vocal cords, but it's also a subconscious attempt to sound more appealing. Alternatively, some women's voices become slightly breathier or more intimate, even in casual conversation. The pace of her speech might change too. She could speak more slowly, as if savoring the interaction, or sometimes more quickly due to nervous excitement. Pay attention to whether she uses your name more frequently than necessary. When we're emotionally invested in someone, we have an unconscious desire to create intimacy through personalization, and using someone's name is one way we do this. Another vocal indicator is the inflection at the end of her sentences. Even when making statements, her voice might rise slightly at the end, creating a subtle questioning tone. Psychologically, this serves to extend the interaction and invite response, showing her unconscious desire to prolong the conversation. Sign 4, the involuntary smile sequence. When a woman secretly loves you, her greeting smile follows a very specific psychological pattern that's distinctly different from polite social smiling. This sequence is almost impossible to fake because it involves genuine neurological responses to emotional stimuli. The sequence typically begins with what researchers call smile suppression. She might initially try to contain her reaction to seeing you, resulting in a slight tightening around her eyes or a pressed lip expression. This is her conscious mind trying to maintain composure while her emotional system is activating. This suppression is quickly followed by what psychologists term the Bloom smile. This is when her genuine emotional reaction breaks through her attempts at control. The smile seems to spread from her eyes first, creating genuine crow's feet, before reaching her mouth. This is crucial because fake smiles typically start with the mouth, while genuine emotional smiles begin with the eyes. The final part of this sequence is the lingering afterglow. Even after the initial greeting exchange, you might notice her smile returning in small waves throughout your interaction. She might look away and then back at you with renewed smiling, as if being reminded of her feelings each time she sees your face. What makes this particularly revealing is that women in secret love often struggle to control this smile sequence. You might catch her smiling at you when she thinks you're not looking, or notice that her attempts to appear casual are betrayed by these uncontrollable moments of joy at seeing you. Sign 5, the physical space dance. The way a woman manages physical space during greetings reveals enormous amounts about her hidden feelings. When she secretly loves you, her relationship with proximity becomes complex and psychologically charged. You might notice what appears to be contradictory behavior. She might initially maintain a greater distance than usual, seeming almost formal or reserved in her greeting. This is her conscious mind's attempt to hide her feelings by overcompensating with professional or friendly distance. However, during the course of the greeting, watch how this distance changes. Despite her initial reserve, she might gradually drift closer, especially if the conversation continues. This isn't a conscious decision but rather her emotional system overriding her logical attempts at distance. Pay attention to what psychologists call orienting behavior. Even if she maintains physical distance, her entire body orientation changes when greeting someone she secretly loves. Her shoulders, hips, and feet all turn toward you more fully than they would in a casual interaction. Her body is literally drawn to yours, even when her mind is trying to maintain casual friendliness. Sometimes, you might notice brief moments where she seems to lean in slightly, as if drawn by an invisible force, before catching herself and returning to a more neutral position. These micro-movements reveal the internal tension between her desire for closeness and her need to protect her secret. Sign 6. The nervous energy indicators. Secret love creates a specific type of nervous energy that's different from general anxiety or social nervousness. When a woman secretly loves you, her greeting behaviors often include subtle physical manifestations of this internal emotional intensity. You might notice increased fidgeting behaviors that seem to appear specifically during your interactions. She might touch her jewelry more frequently, adjust her clothing unnecessarily, or find reasons to use her hands more expressively while speaking. These behaviors serve as physical outlets for the emotional energy she's trying to contain. Another common indicator is what psychologists call displacement activities. These are behaviors that seem slightly out of context but serve to channel nervous energy. She might reorganize items on her desk while greeting you, straighten already straight papers, or engage in other seemingly purposeless activities that help her manage her internal emotional state. Watch for changes in her breathing pattern during greetings. Women experiencing the intensity of secret love often have slightly altered breathing when in the presence of their romantic interest. You might notice her taking deeper breaths, brief moments of breath-holding, or slightly faster breathing patterns that normalize once the initial greeting interaction passes. Her hands are particularly revealing during this phase. You might notice slight trembling, increased gesticulation, or a tendency to clasp her hands together as if trying to contain her nervous energy. These physical manifestations are her body's way of processing the neurochemical surge that occurs when seeing someone she secretly loves. Sign 7. The prolonged transition. The final revealing sign is how she manages the transition away from the greeting. When a woman secretly loves you, ending the initial interaction becomes psychologically difficult, and this shows up in subtle but observable ways. You might notice she lingers longer than necessary after the formal greeting is complete. Even when the conversation has naturally ended, she might find small reasons to extend the interaction, asking additional questions, bringing up related topics, or simply standing in your presence for a few extra moments. Pay attention to her leaving behavior. Instead of a clean departure, she might engage in what researchers call progressive distancing. She takes a step away but continues talking, then another step while still maintaining eye contact, creating a drawn-out departure that reflects her emotional reluctance to end the interaction. Sometimes, you'll notice what appears to be false departures. She might say goodbye and begin to leave, then remember something else to say or ask, resulting in multiple goodbye attempts. This isn't forgetfulness, it's her unconscious mind creating opportunities to extend the connection. The final indicator is the departure glance. After she's begun to leave, watch for backward glances in your direction. Women who secretly love someone often can't resist one final look, even when they're trying to appear casual about the departure. Understanding these greeting behaviors requires delving deeper into the psychology of why women hide their romantic feelings in the first place. Unlike casual attraction or mild interest, secret love involves genuine emotional investment combined with fear of vulnerability, rejection, or social complications. From an evolutionary psychology perspective, women have historically faced greater social and personal consequences for expressing romantic interest inappropriately. This has created deeply ingrained psychological patterns where women often test the emotional waters through subtle behavioral cues before risking more direct expression. The neurochemistry of secret love creates what researchers call emotional leakage. While the conscious mind works to maintain appropriate boundaries and protect against vulnerability, the unconscious emotional system finds ways to express these intense feelings through body language, vocal patterns, and behavioral choices. Women experiencing secret love often report feeling like they're living a double life, maintaining normal social interactions while internally experiencing intense romantic feelings. This psychological tension creates the specific behavioral patterns we observe in their greeting behaviors. The greeting moment becomes particularly significant because it represents a socially sanctioned opportunity for focused interaction. All the emotional energy that's been contained finds a brief, acceptable outlet in those few seconds of acknowledged connection. Once you understand the individual signs, the next level is recognizing how they combine and interact. Women who secretly love someone rarely display just one of these behaviors. Instead, you'll typically observe clusters of behaviors that paint a complete emotional picture. The consistency of these patterns is also revealing. While anyone might occasionally display one of these behaviors due to mood, tiredness, or other factors, secret love creates consistent patterns that repeat across multiple interactions. The woman who secretly loves you will show these greeting behaviors repeatedly, not just occasionally. Pay attention to contrast behaviors as well. How does she greet you compared to how she greets others? The difference in energy, attention, and emotional investment becomes clear when you observe her interactions with various people throughout the day. Context also matters significantly. These behaviors might be more pronounced in certain settings than others. She might be more controlled in professional environments while allowing more emotional expression in casual or social settings. The setting and circumstances of greetings also influence how these psychological patterns manifest. In professional environments, women might suppress these behaviors more strongly, leading to what psychologists call emotional compensation, where the suppressed feelings create even more subtle but intense behavioral indicators. In social settings, these behaviors might be more pronounced but also more consciously managed, especially if there are mutual friends or potential social consequences to consider. The woman might allow herself more emotional expression while still maintaining plausible deniability about her feelings. Private or semi-private greetings often reveal the most authentic emotional responses, as there's less social pressure to maintain strict emotional control. These moments might show the clearest examples of the behaviors we've discussed. Secret love doesn't remain static, it evolves over time, and the greeting behaviors often change as well. In early stages, the signs might be more subtle and controlled. As feelings deepen, the behaviors often become more pronounced, even as the woman tries harder to hide them. There's often a psychological buildup that occurs between interactions. The longer the time since the last greeting, the more intense the next one might be, as emotional energy has had time to accumulate. You might notice stronger reactions after weekends, vacations, or any extended periods without contact. Seasonal and hormonal factors can also influence these patterns. Women might display these behaviors more intensely during certain times of the month due to hormonal fluctuations, or during emotionally significant times of the year. Understanding how to appropriately respond to these signals requires emotional intelligence and respect for the complex psychology involved. The woman displaying these behaviors is managing intense feelings while protecting her emotional safety, and your response should acknowledge this delicate balance. If you're interested in exploring a deeper connection, gentle reciprocation of energy can signal your openness without forcing her to reveal her feelings prematurely. Matching her level of eye contact, showing genuine pleasure in seeing her, and creating opportunities for extended conversation can all communicate your interest respectfully. If you're not interested romantically, it's important to be aware of how your responses might be interpreted. Overly warm responses might encourage her feelings, while cold responses might cause unnecessary emotional pain. Finding a kind but appropriately bounded response requires understanding the emotional investment she's making. With this knowledge comes responsibility. Understanding these psychological patterns gives you insight into someone's private emotional world, and that insight should be treated with respect and care. Using this information to manipulate or take advantage of someone's feelings would be ethically wrong. It's also important to remember that not all women express secret love through the same behaviors, and cultural, personality, and individual differences all play significant roles. These patterns represent common tendencies, not universal rules. Some women might be more direct in their approach, while others might be even more subtle than these patterns suggest. The key is developing sensitivity to individual communication styles while understanding the underlying psychological principles. The way a woman greets you when she secretly loves you reveals one of the most beautiful aspects of human psychology, our inability to completely hide genuine emotion. Despite our conscious efforts to protect ourselves, maintain appropriate boundaries, or avoid vulnerability, the heart finds ways to communicate. These greeting behaviors represent the intersection of intense emotion and social consciousness, creating a complex dance of revelation and concealment that speaks to the depth of human feeling. When you learn to read this subtle language, you gain insight not just into romantic interest, but into the profound ways that love affects our entire being. The next time you're greeted by a woman, pay attention not just to her words, but to the symphony of subtle signals that accompany them. Her eyes, her voice, her body language, and her energy are all telling a story that goes far deeper than casual social interaction. Understanding these patterns doesn't just help you navigate romantic relationships, it develops your overall emotional intelligence and sensitivity to the rich complexity of human communication. In a world where we often feel disconnected from authentic emotion, recognizing these genuine expressions of feeling can restore our faith in the power of human connection. Whether you're hoping to understand someone's feelings toward you, or simply want to become more attuned to the emotional currents that flow beneath social interactions, developing this awareness enriches your understanding of the beautiful complexity of human psychology. Remember that secret love, while beautiful, often carries its own burden of uncertainty and emotional intensity for the person experiencing it. Approaching these revelations with compassion, respect, and appropriate response creates space for authentic connection while honoring the courage it takes to love, even secretly. The language of secret love and greetings reminds us that despite our sophisticated social structures and communication technologies, we remain fundamentally emotional beings whose hearts speak in the ancient language of gesture, glance, and presence. Learning to understand this language opens doors not just to romantic connection, but to deeper human understanding in all its forms. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And if you'd like to go a step further in supporting this work, you can now leave a super thanks below. It's a small way to say thank you, and it truly helps keep this channel going.